Oh, well, looks like I got something new to fix. Hi, I'm Rob, and this is the $5 footlong, my 2007 Chevy Suburban. As you may have already guessed, today's video is going to center around replacing the door handles on this car, since this one just popped off. Well, we got to open the door, so I got to do that from the inside. The first thing I need to do is remove the inner door card. And to get started with that, I'm going to first pop off the lock here. I'm going to first use a knife to pop out this little plastic retainer, and then this slides right off. Behind the door pull, there is a similar cover. I'll use a little screwdriver to pop this one out. There's one more cover right behind the door pull that needs to come out, so we'll get this one popped out as well. Next, I'll remove these two bolts using a 10mm socket and a ratchet with an extension. There's one more bolt right behind the door handle that'll need to come out. Next, I'll use a panel popper tool like this one and pry out the door clips. I'm also going to pop off this little piece of trim that is behind the mirror. Now that I've got all the clips released, I can just kind of lift this up. Once the door card is pulled away, it's going to want to kind of hang on the wires and stuff here. To prevent strain on those wires, I'm actually resting the door card on its bottom hooks down here, but it's still pulled away at the top. Now I'm going to disconnect all the wires that go to the power switches on the door panel. There's just some connectors down here. We just need to find the release tabs and pull them straight down. Now there's 4 connectors that are directly connected up to the wiring harness that need to be removed. Now there is a 5th one that connects up to the seat heater control. This one's got a gray connector. This one really technically doesn't need to come out, but I disconnected it anyway. The next thing I want to do is remove this cable from its mount. In order to do that, I need to find the plastic tabs that are on this keeper and push in on them and then kind of pull on this on the same time, and it'll kind of pop out of its seat. All right, now I can just pull the cable around until I find the groove and pop it out. And now the door panel is free to come away and out of our way. So now what I need to do is pull this insulation back from the door panel. Now on mine, it's really no longer adhered, probably because somebody's been in here before working on this hinge or something. Either way, mine just kind of falls away. If yours is still kind of stuck to the metal, you may need to use a little bit of a razor blade in there to help break that seal and pull it apart. The whole point of removing the insulation is to get at these access points. There's one right here and one right here. Now, I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see in there or not, but there is a bolt head holding on the door latch that needs to be removed here and here. Now on this one, you may be able to see there's a bar in there kind of in the way. That'll need to be kind of worked around, but it is sort of flexible, so you should be able to just kind of push it away with your extension. I dropped the 10mm socket and came back with 2. So that's evidence that somebody else has been in here before me. Once the bolts are loose and kind of removed, I found that I needed to reach in the big opening down here to kind of pull them out so they don't fall down there into the depths. And in fact, on this second one, I'm going to reach in there and try and catch it before it even gets close to falling. Now that the bolts are removed, I can work this out of here. There's a little bit of a clip, so I need to wiggle it, but it's also still connected at the locking mechanism right here. So I'll need to kind of pull this out of here. It just clips in, as you can see. When the door handle originally broke, the actuating arm for the handle mechanism had fallen inside the door. So I've reached in, I've found it, and I've pushed it back through the opening so that I have access to it. And just taking a quick look, you can see right here is where the plastic on the original handle broke. So here's the replacement kit of handles that I plan to use. I purchased these from Amazon, and if you want to learn more, I'll leave a link in the video description. But I will say these are probably not the highest quality parts you can get. When I did the research for this, I found either these types of kits on Amazon and eBay, but I found also more expensive options from places like O'Reilly Auto Parts, but I really think those are the same as these. So I figured I'd just go with the cheaper option right from the beginning and plan on probably replacing these again in another 2 years. So as you can see, these are all covered in this protective plastic. I'm going to pull this one off since this is the one I'm going to be installing. And these are all labeled on the back so you know which one is which. You can see this is front left And of course, this is the only one with a locking hole, so I know it's the right one. So what I need to do now is take the locking mechanism out of the old handle and transfer it to the new one. It looks like it's just held in here with a spring clip that I should be able to spread apart with my fingers. Once it gets to a certain point, I need to use this little screwdriver to pry on it. There, you saw it fly away. And now this should pop right out. Now on a closer inspection of the new versus old, they look almost identical. So I'm pretty sure that the previous owner probably put this same door handle kit on this car right before I bought it. Interestingly enough, it looks like the new handle comes with a new spring clip. So I'm going to pry that out of the way. Now I'll bring the lock cylinder back in, drop it in, and make sure that the fork is facing towards the end of the handle. Now I can bring the spring clip back into place and lock it into this groove in the plastic right here. Once I get that lined up, I can just push it into place and everything should be secure now. So this piece that's attached to the door handle rod is actually from the old handle. The new one has a whole new mechanism on it. So we're just going to kind of work this off the rod and throw it away. I'll bring in the new handle assembly and I'll slip this orange grommet over the handle rod that's inside the door. And now I'll reattach the red part to the lock handle. And now I can work this back into the car. So this is positioned roughly where it needs to be. Now I can go inside the door and reinstall the bolts that hold it on. Now, like before, I'm going to try and reach into the large opening at the bottom of the door so that I can start these by hand to make sure that I don't cross-thread them. So I've got that started and worked in a couple of turns. I had to slide the door handle just a little bit to get the threaded insert to line up with the hole in the sheet metal so that I didn't cross-thread that bolt. Now I can install the other bolt. All right, now I can tighten these up, but I'm not going to tighten them too much since we're dealing with cheap plastic and cheap threaded inserts here. Before I put the inner door panel back on, I think I'm going to do a sanity check just to make sure this is all working. Now, I'll check the lock first, and that seems like it's moving freely and doing what it's supposed to. Now what I think we'll do is close the door and then see if we can open it again. Hopefully we can. What do you think? Is this going to open again? Place your bet in the comments section before I pull this lever. Oh, surprisingly enough, it actually worked and actually felt pretty smooth. No binding or anything like that. I think we're going to be good to go. Let's get the door panel put back on. So this is just going to go back on the opposite way that it came off pretty much. Now for once, GM was kind of thinking things through here, I think. There are longer tabs in the plastic that you can rest the door card on while you're working with it so that most of the weight of it is supported by the door. So now I'll put the cable back in. Once it's kind of in the keeper there, I'll pull off on the sheeting so that it goes around the plastic clip, and then I can just push this straight through until it clicks, just like that. Now I'll reinstall all the plugs into the receptacles that are sort of on the bottom here. Now obviously I can't see anything from this angle, but these will go straight in, and each one is a different size, so you can't plug it into the wrong place. All of the locking clips face sort of the inner part of the door card. Now that everything's reconnected, I'm actually gonna bring this in and I'm gonna lift up the door panel so that the lip that's inside the door card fits into this lip in the trim right here. And at the same time, I'll also make sure the locking rod goes through the opening in the door card. And now that that's all positioned up, I can kind of look in here and see where the clips are and if they're lined up to the holes in the metal, and just kind of adjust everything. And once I get it where I need to, I'll just put some force on this and pop everything back in. And I'll try and work top to bottom. That usually seems best. Next, I'll reinstall the 3 bolts that hold the door card on. There's one behind the door handle and 2 behind the door pull. So now I'm going to tighten these bolts up, but not too much. This is just plastic after all, so it doesn't need to be cranked down too awful tight. Now I can put these covers back in place. One here behind the door pull and the one that goes behind the door handle. I don't want to forget this trim piece that goes sort of behind the mirror. And last but not least, we'll put the door lock back in. And we should be good to go. All the other door handles on my car are functional, but starting to fall apart, like this one on the driver's rear. So since I have all 4 handles, I think I'm going to replace them all today. Now, the process is pretty much the same as it was on the driver's side door, although the wiring and maybe the levering and stuff is going to be slightly different. But for the most part, it's the same type of process. Just to give you a look at what the back door looks like, very similar to the driver's door as you might expect. Although the wiring, there's only one harness here. The cable is about the same as the front. Now, as far as the latch bolts go, there's one here that's accessible through this cutout. But the front bolt, I'm going to need to pull this rubber plug out of here before I can get at that one. On the outside of the rear door, you can see there's only one lever for the handle actuation. There isn't a second lever for that lock tumbler like we have on the driver's side front. Other than that, everything is very similar to the front. So just for comparison, here is the left rear handle that I just took off compared to the replacement from Amazon. Now, I believe, based on the fact that this one is stamped right here, 06, underneath the remains of this sticker, that this is probably the original factory handle, since this is a 2007 Chevy Suburban. Now, this one is fit and finish probably just a little bit better than the Amazon one. It also feels slightly heavier, but it is broken. The plastic boss where the threaded insert goes at the back of the handle has broken off, which is why it was loose. Hopefully this new one holds up for at least a couple of years. I guess we'll find out. As I said earlier in the video, the handles I used in this project are not the highest quality, but I've left a link in the video description in case you want to check them out anyway. If you found a higher quality set, let me know in the comments where you found them and what brand they are. I hope you found this video helpful. Thanks for watching.